Okay, so now that the recording is started, what I will do after we just finished a prayer is address the theme for this talk. And the theme is the cause for the pause. And it stands on its own merit, rides on its own merit. It's a pause, it's not a condemnation. And some people call it a suspension, a pause. Suspend or pause is the same thing. It doesn't mean it's over. It means it's temporarily on hold. And there's reason for that. Okay? And that's what I'm going to go into. Is Luisa's cause for beatification paused or suspended or on hold? It appears so, but we can't say for certain. Back in April of last year, there was allegedly a document issued by the Dicastery for the Causes of Saints, by the prefect Marcello, and in it there were reasons addressed in French for Luisa's cause being put on pause. Now, why do I say we can't say for certain? Because this document is confidential. It's not for the public. However, in recent days, a French magazine posted this document that they claim is authentic. It has a protocol number, it has the cardinal's signature, Marcello's signature, and it's addressed in French to a priest named Bishop Benoit. So I looked at that letter that was posted, and on the top of it, it says confidential, which means that this company who's posting it is violating civil laws. And they seem to be proud about doing that. This is not the way that God, I don't think, would expect us to address people when the church we serve tells us that certain things should be confidential. Why? Number one, a civil infraction can bring with it not only penalties of fines, but also punishment, ecclesial punishment. But again, we're living in times where people do their own thing in the name of the church as well, you know? And these are sad times because there's a lot of confusion, a lot of disunity, disharmony. But the question is now, is this document authentic? Now, because it's confidential, and I'm in no position, unless I directly talk to the cardinal to confirm this, to say it is, because if I did so, I would not only be encouraging these people from breaking the seal of confidentiality, but I would be doing the same by talking about it with you. So how do I address this matter then, which is a very thorny issue? You see the position I'm in? This is how I address it. Assuming that this document is valid, I have already addressed the points this document brings up. I have not yet submitted my addressed objections to the two dicasteries I am supposed to do. I'm supposed to address and do so in writing. I'm going to do that, okay? Now, why did I already address this if I didn't know about this document? Well, I didn't read the document because it was confidential until a little while ago. But I did know of the issues already. These were public. Back in Archbishop Carmelo Cassati's time. This is back in the 90s, before Piccarreta came in. Cassati had submitted to two theologians at the Pontifical University in Rome. One I personally knew. So what were the issues? Well, the issues are basically what is stated in that allegedly leaked document from April 18th, 2022. They're pretty consistent. So it seems to me that that document does look accurate. I'm going to quote to you from a document from the Magisterium that was put out by Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger before he became Pope Benedict XVI, while he was prefect of the Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith before it changed its name to dicastery. This is what came out from the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith. It's the title of the document is Donum Veritatis. Donum is a gift. Veritatis is the truth. All right. Then it adds, the theologian has the duty to make known to the magisterial authorities the problems raised by the teaching itself in the arguments proposed to justify it. Or even in the manner in which it is presented. This is what I said. Suppose it's presented, but ambiguously or incorrectly or incompletely. It's my duty to say, look, you missed something. He should do this in an evangelical spirit and with a profound desire to resolve the difficulties. So I have a profound desire to resolve the difficulties. And I prepared a draft of my objections. And I will go into the church teaching the theologian, that he has a duty to present his objections to the authorities. And that's what I'm going to do. So keep me in prayer that I present it in the right way, because wording has everything to do with theology. And it continues, the statement of Article 39 of Donum Veritatis. The theologian's objections could then contribute to real progress. They contribute to real progress and can provide a stimulus to the magisterium to propose the teaching of the church in greater depth and with clearer presentation of the arguments. Okay, now that's one of the statements on the vocation of the theologian. There is another document that came out in 1975. The document I just shared with you, Donum Veritatis, came out in 1990. The one I'm quoting to you from now was called the International Theological Commission, the Ecclesiastical Magisterium and Theology. It came out in 1975. And it states here that the theologian's duty is to investigate and explain the doctrine of faith and to preserve the sacred deposit of faith, of revelation, and to examine it more deeply and explain the truth, to defend it for the service and the people of God, for the world's salvation. So I'm not going to try to exert public media pressure, because that's not what the theologian should do. I wish to emphasize that I'm not trying to turn to the mass media, but to have recourse to the responsible authorities. For it is not in seeking to exert public pressure or opinion that one contributes to the clarification of doctrinal issues. It's not. For what I share with you now is not in any way to be taken as me trying to exert public pressure upon them through using the media against them. No, that's not what I'm doing. As many of you know, as I defended a doctoral dissertation before the faculties of dogmatic and spiritual theology, the professors of those universities, authorized by the Holy See, with the seals of official approval, my dissertation on the entire corpus of Luisa Piccarreta's writings, spending over 10 years translating her writings from the original manuscripts in Italian to English. Now, I condensed all of these writings into just about 400 pages in my doctoral dissertation, which is about 700 pages. And I compare her writings with 2,000 years of Eastern and Western doctrine and theology. This doctoral dissertation on all of Luisa's writings has the seals of approval of the Pontifical University. That's authorized by the Holy See, because this, of course, is my vocation and my duty. So the theologian's duty is to try to understand what the intended meaning of the author was when they wrote. You cannot understand the author's intended meaning unless you know their original language, culture, and milieu. When Jesus appeared after the resurrection on the shore in John's Gospel, I think it's chapter 21, he told Simon Peter, well, he asked Simon Peter, do you love me? 3 times. Now, how do you understand that in English? If you read the English Bible, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? In Greek, it's not like that. There are 2 different types of love mentioned in those 3 sentences. One's agape and one's philia. So one is, do you love me with a divine love? And the other is, do you love me with a human love? You don't get that in English. It's just, do you love me? Do you love me? Same thing with Luisa's writings. If you don't know the Italian, you're going to miss out on half of the theology. Okay. Now, what I believe has happened here is that they never read all of Luisa's writings. Because I'll give you one thing they say that's inaccurate, off the cuff. That there's little to no mention in her writings of the resurrection of Jesus. That's not true. It's found in the rounds. It's found in the Blessed Virgin Mary book, day 28, day 29. It's found in the volumes. If I tell you, for example, to interpret the Canticle of Canticles, the Song of Songs, you wouldn't have any clue how to interpret that. It's very erotic, or it's very mystically intimate. It's one of the two, because it uses physical body parts to express the love of God. It talks about thighs and breasts and neck being supple. But that's not what it's meant to do. It's a spiritual poetry, a mystical language. You can only understand it if you have full understanding of all the writings of Scripture. This is known in theology as the analogy of faith. You cannot read one line of the gospel without understanding the whole gospel. You cannot read one line of Scripture without understanding the whole of Scripture. This is why we have the church and theologians to qualify what one sentence means. Unless you know the full gamut of all the writings and the language itself in its original form and the context and the culture in which that language was used, you're going to misinterpret it. A theologian who is entrusted with the task of reviewing writings before they're published finds these discrepancies. He should either remove them or not even print them, knowing that they were unintentional. But if he knows they were intentional, then he must declare that work not inspired by God. Unfortunately, today, we have a situation where it's a blessing and a curse. The volumes are all circulated in different languages, but they're not the original manuscript. And this causes problems because people are reading them and interpreting them not in the right way. Now, this is cause for them to turn to the church's theologians for enlightenment. This is how it works. Now, you may not find many theologians who are familiar with Luisa's writings, so you turn to those who are familiar with theology, like the priests. They're the ones that are, Jesus says they have the keys of knowledge. They're the ones who are supposed to help you understand these passages. Pride is one of the most harmful things to Luisa's cause, human pride, and ignorance. And I'm not saying these people are bad. Sometimes the pride is overzealousness, like Peter when he sheathed his sword out of the scabbard to cut off Malchus' ear to stop Jesus from being arrested. Jesus said, in the hours of the Passion, this was excessive zeal. Excessive zeal, it's not good. Sometimes people want to get Luisa out, but they don't go through the proper authorities. They anticipate printing the writings, and they start interpreting them on their own, like we don't need the priest. Well, by the time the priest comes around, we'll be dead. We might as well read it on our own and interpret it on our own. There are priests always out there. Just ask them, be humble, learn how to do it. I'm just saying this for your own sake. I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. It's about you do what you want. But the right way is the way Christ put in motion. And when I say it's not just pride, it's ignorance and it's not their fault, what I mean is if someone has not read all the writings and they're giving a judgment, judgment is going to be impaired because they haven't read everything. And I believe that's the case here. Back in 1997, the year in which I was ordained, Father Antonio Resta, who was the rector of the Pontifical University Theological Institute in southern Italy, read all Luisa's writings when he was asked to by Archbishop Casati, and submitted his report to the tribunal of the Archdiocese of Trani on June 2nd, 1997. He, along with Father Cosimo Rejo, who was the professor of dogmatic theology, two theologians, also submitted his report to the tribunal, both of whom stated, independently, without communicating with each other, that Luisa's writings contain nothing contrary to faith and morals. invite everybody to come together, put your divisions aside, put your little crowns on the ground for a few minutes, and get on your knees and pray to God and the Blessed Mother that this cause be revitalized. Maybe, I see the finger of God in this, just maybe this is happening for good reason. There was a lot of bickering in the last 20 years between groups in the divine will, and this is no secret. And there was a lot of division. Maybe God doesn't want Luisa to be beatified until we show him that we're humble enough for it to happen.